All right, Gareth, if you don't mind, go ahead and give us that wonderful recap you're so good at.
All right. When we last left off, we had managed to escape from the town, but however, we were pursued into the forest. Now, we were pursued by at least one ogre on a belay,
Mm-hmm.
a group of gnolls and human mixed. So we ended up taking the party and doing two separate distractions to split up the enemy pursuers.
Mm-hmm.
It worked up until the point where two of our party members got into a pickle, in which case the rest of us, under Lawrence's directions, jumped off and decided our current mount and decided to run back to help.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I gotta interrupt here because that is not at all what had happened. All right, two of our party members were doing exactly what they needed to be in causing a distraction, so the rest of these idiots could, get out of the area, and we're perfectly fine.
One
Okay,
got almost
and
half
then
dead by
these
a single
idiots
hit.
decided to completely negate that fact by jumping off and starting a huge brawl that what we were trying to not do in the first place.
Mason, they were trying to save you.
Did I look like I need saved?
Yes, yes, you did.
Did
He
I
just broke
ask for
in.
help?
He
How am
just
I
broke
supposed?
in and
How am
said,
I supposed
"Hang
to
on,
know? I
hang
mean,
on. This is
you,
horseshit."
how am I supposed to know whether you needed help or not? You were a frickin' elk. I don't speak elk.
Bitch, did I turn the elk around to come and bring them to me?
Oh my
No, I kept
God.
them going away.
Continue, Gareth.
You are not transmitting, sir. Check your mic.
And keep it
Give us
straight.
this give us the recap. Let us
All right.
know.
So in the quote unquote
Rescue.
fuck around and find out of rescuing these two people that quote unquote did not need
I'm
rescuing.
about to have somebody hold my earrings if you keep lying over there.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Go ahead.
So as the party was coming back together as a single cohesive unit, a rolling fog started to come in
Mm-hmm.
through the forest. And we saw through the fog a brambles, thorny obstructions. So we decided to run there to evade our pursuers. At which point we were then lost in the fog, which was later called, help me out here, what was the name?
Joe.
The creature we encountered.
No, the
The
breath of.
Oh, the breath of the Krogan.
There you
the
go.
Breath of the Krogan, thank you. Which is to most of our knowledge, is a creature of myth. However, those that enter the Breath of the Krogan are judged, and most that enter the Breath of the Krogan don't ever come back. But those that,
According to myth and legend.
according to myth and legend, those that do come back are the Breath of the Krogan always sends them where they need to be.
That's right.
So we got spat out.
You didn't get spat
Unaided.
out. You walked through.
Oh, we walked through, had a little vision quest along the way,
Mm-hmm.
to which we were shown, I guess you could call them paths that we had decided to take or not take, decisions we did or did not do, and possible outcomes of events that had happened in either the past, present, or future.
Mm-hmm.
And each individual party member had their own set of visions.
Mm-hmm.
But when we exited the breath, we were placed under an unknown starry sky that had 3 moons hanging over it. And before us was this castle,
Old Victorian style castle.
to which we saw a single light on the top of the castle.
Mm-hmm.
And as we approached, the light made its way down to the castle. And then when the front door was thrown open, there stands before us none other than Florin,
Right.
who promptly looks at us, in an extremely irate tone and goes, "You idiots."
You are all fools, is what he said.
Yeah, well, I'm paraphrasing.
Man,
All
you couldn't
right.
even get that right.
So,
Look here, Elk Boy.
Joe, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here for a moment.
All right.
Let's go ahead and take a step back to many, many years ago. Rohan is younger, not by much from what he is at this point in time, but maybe about 5 or 6, 7 years in the past. It is not deep into the night, but pretty far in. But the village is doing their annual celebration, almost like their spring equinox kind of thing, whatever it would be. Okay. And at this time, it's when the elders would come out and tell stories, tell myths, tell legends. And on this particular night, one of the oldest of your tribe is going to tell the story of the Krogan. Joe, I would like for you to be that elder. It is an open fire in an open field, almost like savannas. There's mountains in the distance. You can see the outlines from the light of the moon and the stars in the sky. It's very clear. It's very warm. Children are running around, but most of the older kids, young adults, and even older adults are seated before this elder, listening to him tell the legend of the Krogan. Joe, go ahead.
All right. So the elder will kind of like bang a wooden spoon on his glass to get everybody's attention. Listen up. Today, we will tell the tale of the Krogan. Listen very closely. For if you were to encounter the Krogan when he awakens, this story could very well save your life.
Now, keep in mind that the fire is big. There's all this other distraction going on around you, and Rohan is seated more in the back, paying attention to all of this. This is his first time hearing an elder tell this tale.
Listen closely. When the world was new, not even yet formed, the great gods created a protector for the world. And that Krogan was created. That Krogan would spread its wings over the planet, this planet in which we live, and spread its wings and block out the sun and protect us. And as time went on, the Krogan would sleep, but then he would also at times awaken to judge those who would destroy the world which we have. But this tale that I'm telling you is one that my father told me, one that his father told him, from a survivor who was actually there. And the story goes that he traveled along these woods here that we call home. He traveled, and he was with his wife and children, and they were traveling, and suddenly loud thunder all around, and yet not a cloud in the sky. No rain, no dark, ominous clouds, just a loud rumble all around them in the forest. I had no idea what it was. And then suddenly a giant creature roared as loud as an earthquake, as a volcano erupting, and bore its wings out and blotted out the sun. The family was scared, but the father, my great-great-grandfather, stood before the Krogan and drew his weapon. Krogan said something to him, my great great grandfather never told me what he said. But then the judgment began. The Krogan was testing my great great grandfather and took him to a faraway land. And there my great great grandfather fought a battle against an unknown enemy and against unknown forces. When he was successful at defeating them, the Krogan brought him back and bestowed on him a gift, a sword, which is now in the possession. And the elder will reveal the sword, a gleaming weapon, finest craftsmanship, and show it to the entire tribe. This is the sword of the Krogan. We respect the Krogan, and we let it rest. If you find yourself in the breath of the Krogan, it would be wise for you to show your good intentions, and the Krogan may just use you to do good somewhere else.
We'll leave it there. The rest of the festivities go on, take place. The rest of Rohan's history happens up to the end of last week's episode. Another bit of prologue before we move on. Let us go to Crom. Now, Gareth, where did we leave off with Crom? I believe the last thing that had happened was him and Florin had an interaction. Is that correct?
We had an interaction at the grave of the king.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, after Crom rested for the night, he started out the next morning on his way to Crow's Valley.
And had he left already? Had he left the city of Browning?
Yes, he would have left that morning.
Okay. So you have been traveling for about 2 days now with no interaction from anything. The only thing that you would have seen was that an overturned wagon where some sort of event took place. And if he would have investigated more, which I'm sure he would have, he'd have gone off the main road and seen where there had been some kind of campsite at some point in time, and another battle took place there. Dried blood on the grass, on leaves, broken branches, and trees. You can see where arrows or spears had stuck in places. And you can see that there was some kind of major scuffle here. Does Crom could figure out like tracks and stuff, right?
Yeah, he's been living in the mountains for 100 years. I mean, he's
Easy
tracking
enough.
would be second nature by now.
Easy enough. Minotaur, ogre, gnoll, and human. Forest creatures. Even kind of like a 3-pronged print that you may not recognize right away, but would figure out eventually that it's some sort of fast-moving reptile.
Something reptilian, dinosaurish,
Yes,
or dragonish. Yeah,
something like that. But it was weighted, right?
heavier than it should have been.
Almost like it had a rider. You get the pretty good idea that you are on the right track. Throughout those 2 days of travel, though, rainstorm comes through. You continue on, you and your bear, and eventually you make your way to the border of the western frontier, and you come over the crest of this hill, and you can see before you the town of Jordan. You know that the town has been occupied. But like you can see that. You can tell from where your vantage point is looking down. But it's incredibly quiet there.
He will skirt the edge of the town and see if he can see what's going on in the town, to see if if Lawrence is in the area, or if the party he is searching for could possibly be in the town.
At first glance, the town looks deserted.
He'd be on the lookout for like guards, any sign of life or movement in the town at all.
Nothing that you can see.
He'd go in to investigate. He'd use the buildings as cover and go from building to building.
Well, as you do that, within about the first 2 or 3 buildings, you realize that effort is kind of fruitless because the town looks completely deserted. Windows are broken out, doors are smashed in. Some of the insides of some of the buildings have collapsed, and so on and so forth. You can tell that a large unit moved through here very recently, probably within the past day. But beyond that, you don't see anything.
All right. So my knowledge is still that Lawrence was heading through to Crow's Valley. So seeing this carnage, he would have started to pick up the pace.
Well, as you are getting ready to walk out of the town, you hear what sounds like shutters. Bam, 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 bam.
He'd immediately bow up that big bow he has. He'd draw up in air and swing in that direction.
It's coming from the inn.
He'd start making his way over.
Okay. It's intermittent sounds. It's not in any consistency. Like every now and then you'll hear one, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3, but it only happens at random times, it would seem.
He'd do his best to stealth up to the inn.
Okay. The closer you get to the inn, you hear what sounds like glass shatter.
Right. He'd make his way to a window and look in.
You see a fat man, bald. His clothing was once expensive, now it isn't, and it's torn and tattered, and spots of blood are all over it. And he is seated with his back to you at what's left of the bar.
Bow and arrow would immediately go away, and Crom would pull a short dagger out, and he'd try to quietly make his way in.
Okay, when you push your way in, the door kind of creaks, and the man seated at the table at the bar pops his head up. He doesn't turn around. He pops his head up and he says, "Have you come to kill me?"
No, I'm not your angel of death.
Who
What
are
happened here?
Who are you?
A myth and legend. What happened here?
He lowers his head. You can see him kind of reach, almost feeling for a bottle. Finally gets it and pours it. Some of it pours on the countertop before it goes into a glass, and he sets it back down. Death happened here.
That I can tell. Who caused it?
He who is quiet.
Would I have any knowledge of who that would be?
Intelligence at a 10.
Hang on, I've got to switch.
Just roll 20-sider.
Hang on. Ah, come on. Roll 20, don't fail me now. All right, you said intelligence.
Yeah.
Roll
Edit.
20.
I'll let it slide. Fuck it. I don't care. From reports that Regal and Utar had given you, non the quiet.
I'll look around and say, are you the only survivor?
He sits there quietly for a moment and he says, "They left me that way on purpose. Told me I could rule a town of souls."
Tell me, did one named Lawrence pass through here?
And he peeks up for that. Now, mind you, his back's been to you this entire time. And he says, "Lawrence, Voldaceris, Koch, Edelbrim, Baruch, Rohan, Adacro. Some were here, all were here, none of them were here."
The ones that did this to your town, did they go after them?
I could not see.
I was a feeling you would say that. And he's going to step forward and place his hand on his shoulder and turn him.
He tenses. When you turn him around, his eyes have been completely gouged out. There's nothing but empty sockets.
He'll look at him and say, if I were a healer, maybe, but this is beyond my skills.
They told me I could rule a town of souls. I heard the rest of them be killed, you know. They called my name out, called me a traitor, called me a deserter, told me I had killed them. He falls down to his knees and he grabs onto whatever he can get a hold of your clothing. And he starts to cry. No tears come out, though, and he is begging, "Please, please end this. Finish me. Take me away from here so I may go to necrosis and suffer for eternity."
Crom will look down at him and he'll thumb that blade that he's got in his hand.
Now, on his sleeveless arms, all of the names of the party are etched into his skin.
He will look and say, "Tell me, who did this to you?"
Zahn, the Merciless, Lady Urser, Non the Quiet. Please, I beg you. I beg you. And he hangs his head low.
I am not usually the messenger of death in situations such as these. I meet my foes on the battlefield. I have walked through endless plains of the dead. I have fought my way through them. You are asking me to take your life not in combat, but as a mercy.
Are you holding the knife straight out or hanging down?
Kind of off to the side.
As he's pulling on your clothes, he's reaching over for your arm, trying to find it.
I'll curl the arm up and away from his grasp, and I will place my hand on his shoulder and push him into a more upright position on his knees. And I'll say, "Look at me."
He looks up. Again, the empty sockets.
I am searching for Lawrence. Should I come across any of the party that did this to you and your town, should they be in my way, I promise you this: they will join you should they try to stop me.
He's just sitting there, sobbing, begging for death, begging for mercy, begging for it from you.
He'll look at him one last time, and he'll say, "You wish to be with Negrosis. You wish to pay for what you have done here. You
I
wish
just-
to answer."
I deserve nothing less.
He'll draw the knife down to where the point is just under his chin,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll say, "Then be with them." And he'll slam that knife straight up into his skull.
It is instant. He quivers for maybe a moment or two before the weight of his body slumps down.
As he slumps, Crom will just hold that knife and let him slide off of it, and he'll
Mhm.
flick the blade to the side to fling the blood off, and pick up just like a bar towel or something, clean the blade, and he'll look over to Griselda and say, "We're done here. We need to move," and he'll head out.
Okay. And we'll leave Crom there for a moment. Now, let's go to the present day. Gentlemen, where you're at now, it is the dead of night. You're standing at the doors of a Victorian castle on the side of a wooded, worn-down mountain, and you have a very perturbed, white-haired elf with a single torch in his hand, and he says once again, "You are all fools."
Baruch will look to him and say, "Why are we the fools?"
I'm asking the questions here, young man. Who are you? How did you get here?
We walked.
He looks between everybody, looks to Voldesaris, looks to Lawrence. I imagine you two are in charge of these morons.
I'm gonna look around for the morons.
Like in all seriousness, like you're confused, like
Yeah, I'm looking for 'em.
I'm just like sort of before. I'm like, who are you?
I am Florin Bornsmith of Browning, and who might you be, sir?
So I understand the name Florin.
Oh yeah,
right?
you know exactly who that is.
Okay. Well, then I'll be like, well, I will tell you my name the minute you stop using your fake one.
He
I'll kind of like nudge Baruch. I'll be like, Florin, can you believe
he
that?
looks past you to Voldesaris.
Baruch's just going to be looking Florin up and down, seeing if this matches what he understands from like the stories he's heard.
Yes, looks exactly like him. He looks to Voldesaris and says, "You, Dark Elf, are you in charge of these people?"
Voltasaurus just looks to Lawrence and kind of gives a hand shrug in at his lower abdomen.
I'm shaking my head no over the back and just pointing at Lawrence.
Koch is gonna raise his hand. Koch is in charge.
Yeah, better yet, yeah, I'm gonna point at Koch.
He looks past and he looks at all of you and goes, a human captain or lieutenant, an orcish orc, a barbarian, a dark elf who is mute, a brute, and a tiny mushroom dwarf.
I'll wave.
Well, don't just stand there in the dark. Come in. And he walks away.
Side note. Can you
Go
hear me?
ahead. Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, because you said a dark elf that was mute. I was like, did they not hear anything I fucking said?
You didn't say anything. All you did was motion.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So he thinks you're mute.
Yep, you used hand signs. You know.
He's walking into the chambers.
I'll look down to Lawrence and say, "Shall we?"
He's lighting torches along the way.
Nothing better to do, I suppose.
What do I have to roll to make him believe that I'm in charge?
What do I have to roll to help him?
We'll work on that in a minute. Just hold fast, gentlemen. Okay. So he gets about 5 torches lit on both sides before he turns around and he says, "Well,
I'm gonna go first, as a leader should. Shove my-
I'm following. I'll let him go first, sure.
fair enough."
Baruch will just sigh and just step in pace behind Lawrence.
Joe? Joe.
Joe.
Joe. Joe.
And so the dance begins.
Sorry, I'm back.
There he is. Are you going in?
Yes.
Okay.
While also looking back to see if the mist or breath of the Krogan is still there.
It is.
Okay.
As you come in, Rohan, you'll be the last to walk in. The door closes behind you on its own. Koch, are you going to walk right up to Florin?
Yeah, I'm very happy. I'm gonna pretend like
Okay.
I don't know who this man is. He invited me in. We're in.
So you walk up to him. He's holding the torch, and he doesn't move. He's not intimidated. He's just more irritated than anything else. And he looks you up and down from feet to face, and he goes, "You have got to be kidding me."
Can I pat his
What?
head?
If you want.
I'll pet Florin.
He go, "Don't do that." Let me guess. You imbeciles came through the mist. Am I correct in that? And he's looking right at you, Koch.
I'm looking around for the imbeciles again.
Are we still just in the hallway?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, while he's like focused on Kaj and thinking that he's the leader, I'm just gonna be looking around,
Okay.
like seeing if I notice any noticeable features of the architecture.
So you do. The architecture is human. No dwarven or minotaur or elvish influence or make. This is a purely human-built Victorian style castle. The tapestries on the wall are of people you recognize, though in different events that you have never heard of before. You can see on one tapestry Korg and Grendel side by side fighting dragons. Another tapestry is Valdemir seated atop a winged gold dragon, setting fire to some enemies down below. And so on and so forth. People you recognize, people you know, but just in different events that you have never heard them talk about before.
Baruch will be looking around, and then he'll just turn and say, "What is this place?"
He leans over to you, kind of gives you a squinty-eyed, irritated look, and goes back to Koch. And he says, "Am I right?"
Well, we did come this way.
Wait, are you actually going to talk?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
This is like the first time you have spoken.
So say that again, Mason. What does Koch say? Does he speak in perfect English?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Say it.
Well, we came through
He
the
speaks
forest
with a
that
high
way.
intellect.
Oh, you came through the forest that way.
Yeah, that direction.
I would like to point out that I am not at all phased that he can speak. I just want to point that out.
Do you realize the implications of you being here?
Sir, I know that the implications may be dire to you, but we have no idea where here is.
It's true. We don't know where we are.
He
I'll
looks
pet
to
him again.
you. He waves his hand and moves yours away. And he kind of looks in between all of you. And he's like, "Where are you from?"
I'll say, like, I don't believe we have one singular point of origin, we all met in Browning and
He
headed
raises an
west.
eyebrow at that. Browning, you
Headed
say?
west. Yes.
Come with me.
We were.
And he turns around and heads toward a series of stairs.
I follow behind.
Shove my way to the front.
Your captain is in charge.
I'm very excited to be the line leader.
He goes up a set of winding stairs, down another hallway, more tapestries, things of that nature, paintings, statues, sort of things. There's dust and cobwebs and things like that. It looks like the castle is barely lived in. You can almost see where his robes go through the dust on the floor, down these pathways and stuff before he gets to the other side of the castle in a tower and starts to go up.
I'm gonna rub my hand across something so that it comes to gray.
So that it what?
So you know, how, like you touch like something that's dusty, and then your hand comes off like all gray and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do that.
Okay. As he takes you
It'll
upstairs
be
to this,
important later.
fair enough, to this other tower, he swings the door open, and it is well lit. It is a laboratory. It is well used, well taken care of, and clean. And another man is in there with him. Joe, as Florin comes through the door, he goes, "My lord, do these men belong to you?"
I'll look back. I'll go, no.
Lawrence, instantly recognizable as a middle-aged Korg.
I will of course be taken aback, and I will just kind of slowly begin to walk towards the front of the pack.
Florin disregards you and points to Koch. He is their leader. He speaks fluent English, by the way. Fluent Common, by the way. And he points at his head, indicating that he thinks Koch is extremely intelligent.
I'm gonna pet Florin.
Just for a refresher, Korg's been dead long before I was born, right?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. So I'll make sure. Okay.
Now, let me give you a rundown of the room. There are 3 mirrors off to one side. One shows no reflection. It's cracked and gray and black. The other shows the reflection of the room, and yet another is still cloudy. There is it's very circular, very tall and wide. You're right at the peak of the tower, so you've got the structure that's built around as it goes up to the peak of the roof. There's windows on 4 corners, wooden floors, and a bunch of other various pieces, equipment, spell books, all kinds of things.
All right. Because Koch is in front of me, I'm gonna like take a step to where I'm kind of behind him, and I'm gonna cast Detect Magic.
Oh, this whole room lights up.
Can I identify anything that's in it?
Florin's looking right at you.
Well, he hasn't paid me any attention before now, so fuck it.
And he says, "There's no need for that." You do notice a bunch of scrolls all over the place, too.
What about the mirrors?
The mirrors are highly magical.
I just continue to kind of march forward, and eventually, like, I'll be kind of, peering curiously at like his face, almost like just a foot and a half away.
Mhm. Joe?
I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
Lawrence is coming up to Korg, staring at him very curiously.
Korg will just go, is there a problem?
Korg?
Yes.
I'll immediately like wheel on Florin, and I'll be like, I do not like these tricks, Elf. I don't understand exactly what game you're pulling here, but these illusions are not enjoyed on my part.
Can I can see Korg. Is he magical?
No.
I'll look to Lawrence and I'll say he has no magic.
Is there anybody other than Koch standing like right next to me? We'll stand.
Voltaires, Rohan, they might be near you.
I'm gonna lean down to Voldasaris and ask him. So who is that guy? And I'm gonna point to Korg.
Ace, you would know from stories. You would know that he was the ruler of Browning for a time. Was part of a major reason why the Second Armor-Clad War was a victory for Darmus.
I would,
Yeah, for Baruch, that would be probably the name would bring up the history, but because of his upbringing, it would not be a well known to him
No.
possibly.
Go ahead, Ace.
yeah, I look to Edelgrim and say, with very sincere eyes, and say, I know the name very well. But where I'm from, you only hear stories of this man. Only stories. But they are great stories.
Florin turns to Korg and he says, "My lord, they claim they are from Browning."
From Browning. I did not send out any detachment from Browning. Perhaps Grendel or perhaps even Valdemir may have, but I'll have to confer with them.
Should I dispatch Griffins to find out?
Yes, at once. Thank
Very
you.
well. And Florin walks away.
I'm gonna lean down to Koch and say, "Did he say griffins?" Because we're druids, so I would have.
You know what those are.
Koch is he'll half nod, but also half kind of snicker at the fact that he got away with petting Florin with that dirty hand.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna whisper back and say, "Can we go see him?"
I'll fall Florin again. I can do it again.
Florin is gone for the moment. You are left in the room with Korg.
Damn it!
Baruch's going to start looking around. Are there any like maps or documents or charts or anything around?
All where Korg is standing currently.
He'll walk over and just start looking and look down, and he's looking for.
Joe, are you going to allow that?
I am going to put my just Korg will gently put out his hand and go, is there something I can help you find?
I'm looking for a map.
Of what specifically?
The world.
Of Darmus?
Of Darmus.
Certainly. You want a specific area of Darmus or just the entire world?
He's going to look at Korg and look at the rest of the group, judging from their reactions. He's going to say, show me Keratin Kaiopolon. Show me the borders and the battle lines between the Orc and the Minotaur.
Joe, that does not exist.
Is that a story? No such place exists or has ever existed here.
I'll kind of just walk up and just like, what year is it?
1378 of our Lord. Shit. 1378 in the Age of Tamaris. Joe.
The year is 1378 in the Age of Tamaris.
Is that corresponding to?
No, Damaris you recognize obviously, but the year is completely off.
By how much?
Centuries in the past.
Baruch will look down at whatever map is right there, and he'll spread it out real quick.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, but your land does not exist here. Where do you come from? It's clearly not from Browning. These maps are sacred, and they require our delicate attention. I can't have you just ruffling them about.
Baruch he's going to scan the map. Does he see anything around the area that looks familiar to him?
Perception, real quick, at 13.
Perception. Is it not? Hang on. Give me a sec. Let me try this again. Sorry, Roll20 is being a pain in the butt.
Nope, that's okay.
Reload character sheet. Try this again.
Oh, yeah. You see the borders of Avaris. You see the borders of Erwin. You see the borders of Hammerfell. But where Kerton Kaioplan should be, it is not.
What about the Orc lands?
There are no Orc lands.
So there's just a massive chunk missing from the continent.
No, it's there. There's just no borders.
There's no borders. There's nothing labeled there.
No. If anything, it looks like it's fed into Hammerfell and Erwin more than anything else.
What does the terrain for this area look like?
Where you're in, it's the
No,
western. Oh, go ahead.
I'm asking like Korg, like
Oh.
pointing it like that section of the map.
Mostly forest.
Florin makes his way back in. My lord, the griffins have been dispatched. We should receive reports within the hour.
Very good.
I know that Florin has the armor clad, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I'll again turn on him like, Elf, if this is some sort of cruel game for our quest to take back the armor clad from you, I understand now.
Wait a minute.
Wait.
What did you just say?
The armor clad.
Florin gives you a look, Korg. A very
Korg will give
serious
him.
look.
Korg will give him the same look.
Florin turns back to you and he says, "What do you know of the armor clad?"
I guess actually I meant to say the rebuilder, but now we're in it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I guess, is the rebuilder technically an armor clad? Is
No.
it like a badge?
No,
Okay,
it's something completely different.
Yeah.
Okay. Well then, I don't know. To be honest, actually, I probably wouldn't have said it then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If you want to retract and say rebuilder, go ahead.
Yeah. Then,
Mhm.
yeah, we'll just same situation.
Okay. Again, Florin would look to Korg when he mentions the rebuilder.
I will.
Go ahead.
I'll just be like, I don't know much of it beyond myth and legend. I do know at the end of the second armor-clad war, you stole it. And I'll point at
Second. A second war, you say?
You can hear Florin say, "This is very interesting. It correlates with why the mirror went dark."
Yes, it does. We're going to need to gather the council together. This may be very bad.
If I may recommend patience, my lord, we need to hear what these gentlemen have to say.
Very well.
Baruch will still have been leaned over the map with it spread out, and he's just been watching the whole conversation.
Mm-hmm.
and he'll turn to Lawrence and he'll say the maps are all wrong.
Could
The
I
maps
just
are quite accurate.
say I take like 3 minutes? It's like, listen, here is where I know of history. Tell me where it stops making sense. All right, and I'll just, I think with a +10 in history, I probably know a
Oh
pretty
yeah,
good
yeah,
summary of the entire history of Darmus.
yep. Go for it.
And so I will, but like I'll just be like, when do they eventually stop me? Like what's
Within about 30 seconds, Florin is like, "What you are saying is completely inaccurate."
okay. I believe the mist has dropped us off somewhere quite different from where we were used to.
Joe, this reinforces the legend that the breath of the Krogan is in fact very real.
Yeah, and Rohan is literally, he will speak up and say, "We have been brought here. The Krogan has brought us here
Well, then
to
tell
help."
him to bring us back.
Florin,
No, we
Florin,
can't leave. If the Krogan has found us worthy, it is like a story I heard the chieftain say, that if the Krogan finds favor, you can be in an epic battle or an epic quest and gain favor and possibly even a gift. My the chieftain had a sword of the Krogan. Oh my gosh, we
we
are in it.
we have all that at home. None of what you just said is impossible to get at home.
My homeland is destroyed. I have no home.
gentlemen, if I may, allow me to tell you our history. Any motions for you all to take a seat?
I sit.
Baruch will just kind of lean back against like a table or whatever, and
In our world, in this Darmus, and he looks to Voldaceris, you are rare. We have seen maybe one or two of you in a century. He looks to Koch and he's like, "You are something completely different. I don't think I've ever seen anything like you before." And he looks to the dwarf and he says, "And we have dwarves, but none quite like you." He looks to Rohan. "Barbarians roam these lands. They are nomads, tribes, but they usually keep to themselves, stay on the western frontier where we are on the border of now." He looks to the York and he says, "And you are usually not welcome in many places. To see you traveling with humans and dwarves and elves and whatever that is," and he points to Koch, he says, "is a sight to behold on its own." And he looks to Lawrence and he's like, "And you, a young human, traveling with these creatures."
when you say that about Baruch, he'll let like a bark of laughter, and he'll say, "Well, it's nice to know some things don't change."
Korg has been ruler of Browning for the past several decades. His brother in arms, Grendel, rules the northern part of Avaris. Valdemir is a general in Korg's army and is out maintaining order as we speak.
Vladimir being a vampire is a known fact, right? In our
Yeah,
world. Okay.
yeah.
Then I will ask bluntly, like, is Vladimir still human?
He gives you kind of a curious look and he looks to you, Korg, and he says, "Is he? You would know better than I." Which he is,
Valdemir,
Joe. Yeah.
Valdemir, always been human. Why do you ask?
Baruch will chime in at that one, and I say, in our world, he's more of a monster.
A
Something
monster,
of the
you say?
dark side.
He is a well-decorated general here.
Yes, one of my trusted soldiers.
He was all of those things at one point in our world too.
And now in your world, he's a monster?
Vampire, to be precise.
I see.
Servant of Artefactus at one point. I don't know what he is now.
We have an Artefactus here. We have a Tamaris, which the name I can tell you all recognize. And we have a relic. Let me show you something. And he steps over to the three mirrors and he points to the one with the reflection. And he says, this here is a window into our world where we stand now. He's, it's a oval shaped mirror. The glass is perfect. It's clean. It's got this like gold lace type border around it, and it's very beautiful and very shiny. He says, this represents the state of our world. It is clean. It is perfect. It is untarnished. He points to this, the next one, the one that's broken and black and gray. He says, this was another Darmus, a second. But it is gone now. It has been destroyed. I have witnessed this with my own eyes. This mirror will show no reflection anymore. And he points to the other one that's cloudy. This is yet a third. It had a reflection into another castle similar to this, I would assume, on that Darmus. But it went cloudy not too long ago. And I imagine right about the time you guys came through the breath of the Krogan. Tell me, who rules Browning on your Darmus?
Queen Aglonia, your widow.
Joe?
Excuse me? Aglonia. Does not ring a bell.
And you say Minotaur have their own lands. Is that correct?
I want to hog the speaking time if anyone else wants to talk.
Go for it. This would be out of Baruch's depth. I mean, he wouldn't know anything of the people of Browning. It's
Used to. They were unceremoniously forced out not too long ago by the Orc tribes. Most of them live in what I assume is equivalent to your Grendel's fortress.
Fort Grendis?
Yes.
Some things stay the same, it would seem.
Some do.
And the dwarves? Do they own their own lands?
Hammerfell exists, yes, and they are slowly making their plays towards expanding outwards. They've already subjugated the... What's the gnomish city called again?
Gnome.
Yeah, no. Yeah, thank you. They've already subjugated Gnome. Is there a gnome on the map?
No.
Okay. Which I see you're also lacking. But yes, they do exist.
And you mentioned armor clad.
Yes.
And you said there were 2 wars.
The original war fought between the gods towards the beginning of creation, and the second war, a resurgence, led by Artifact, is only 100 years ago.
Very strange.
Ace, that necklace is
Oh, Tim, you got a
warm.
message, I think.
Yeah, I read it.
Okay.
That necklace is warm, and it's pulsating a dull light.
Would I have noticed that when with detect magic?
No.
No. Okay.
Voldaceris has that necklace wrapped around his wrist at the moment, and he's with the mentions of names like Artefactus and Valdemir and all these other familiar names that he is very, very much aware of. He is very distracted and looking around and not really paying attention to the conversation at hand. And he notices the flicker of the pearls and the bead, or the beads are on the pearl necklace around his wrist, and he's kind of clenching his palm and rubbing the necklace against his wrist.
Florin turns his attention to you, and he starts to make his way towards you. My young friend, what is your name?
My name is Voldaceris.
And where do you hail from, Voldaceris?
I hail from a land that is no more. It was destroyed.
But your people
I come from the
exist.
land down under.
But
My
your people
people-
exist there.
My people did exist there. At the age of a youngling, in my 20s, that land and the people within it were destroyed. I was spared by the one who destroyed that land.
And who would that be?
You know him very well, I assume. You call him Valdemir.
It would seem that our Valdemir and yours are 2 very different people. He says, if I may, and he motions to your wrist.
Voldaceris clenches and pulls that wrist close to his chest.
He says, I mean you no harm.
This was a gift from my mother. No
And
one touches this.
It will be respected, if I may see it.
Voldaceris extends his hand and opens his palm, and just 6 to 8 inches from his chest, he has his hand out, so he has control over his reach.
Are you showing him the beads?
Yes, he extended his hand with his palm face up.
Okay. He looks at it, and he looks to Korg, and he says, my lord, he has them.
Yes.
What do you mean by them? This was my mother's necklace.
Do you know what those are? There's 7 of them, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? 7?
The stones that occasionally light, you mean? Yes, there's 7 of those.
7.
This is a pearl necklace from my mother.
He turns to Korg and he says, my lord, if you may, please pull the shroud from that contraption. at the far end of the laboratory. Joe, out of character, you know what this is, and I will text it to you.
Okay.
Let me find your name here. There you are.
It's J-O-E.
Go on, Ace. I'm typing it out. All right, Joe. Message has been sent.
Copy that. All right.
Voltaceres basically takes another look at the beads around his wrist and the people in the room surrounding, and just keeps going back and forth between the two and says, "You mean to tell me you know what this is?"
I know exactly what those are.
Yes. And Korg will make his way to the tapestry and pull it down.
When you do that, dust goes, and you can see a rusted, dented, shut down rebuilder. Mason, if you would do me a favor and please refresh everybody's memory as to what a rebuilder looks like.
So if you take the base of the alien visitors from Fifth Element, and then just add like multiple like panels and gears and kind of give it like a Rust Monster junk look to it, that's kind of like what a rebuilder looks like.
This has been deactivated for God only knows how long. But Florence looks to the rebuilder that's shut down and looks back to you, Voltaceres, and he says, "What you have there is the heart, the lifeblood of a rebuilder. We have been searching for one of those for a long time. And you have 7. Tell me, you say your mother gave those to you. I find that hard to believe." Lawrence,
No,
you notice that Florin's tone is changing more along the lines of what you remember Florin to be now.
no. These are a gift from my mother.
I
She
kind of grip just the handle of my sword.
she gave them to me as she was dying.
Is that
As our
so?
as our entire lineage was being destroyed. As I told you, your man Valdemir that you have in your army that you so praise, he destroyed these people. He
The
destroyed
man
my
that
people.
you criticize and defame is a savior of this planet.
Well, he did spare me, and I can grant him that much, and that is it.
Joe, as Cord, you notice that Florin's demeanor is changing to something you have not seen in a long time.
And Korg will go, okay. Let's take a break for a moment. It's true. Those beads, pearls, if you will, are the rebuilder. And we have been looking for them for a very long time. So I understand. I look into Floor and I say, let's see what they have to say.
Very well.
Go on and tell us more about these
Sorry, what?
beads. Tell us more
Okay.
about these pearls and how your mother came into possession of them.
I know not how my mother came in possession of these, but as she was close to death, She gave them to me. And Voldasaris kind of trickles back into a memory of that moment and seeing his mother's eyes and her hands clutching those pearls, handing them to him as she struggles to get out the words, keep them, and can't quite get out the word safe. But he knows that's what she means.
Florence,
And Voldasaris looks
ahead.
back to them and says, she wanted me to cherish them.
Florence looks to you and he says, I assume your friends have no idea about you, do they? He looks to
If you
Lawrence.
mean what I think you mean, then no. There's only a few who even know my true identity.
He looks to Lawrence and go ahead.
No, it's but, and it just trails off, and then he gets interrupted.
He looks to Lawrence and Koch and he says, are you aware of the party you keep?
Side note, sorry. Adacro knows,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't remember if Lawrence knows.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I
think Adacro's the only one.
I'd probably look at Florina and I'm like I do not care for whatever you have to say. Not after that display a moment ago. All I want to know is how I get back to my world.
I have been nothing but truthful with you since you have come here, since you have come through my doors. I believe it is all of you that have been less than convincing with the truth. Ask him. Ask him what speaks to him in his mind. Ask him what it says.
I'll look at Voldasaris for a second. You know, kind of hold my gaze on him. And I'll turn back to Florin, and he's like, he's a good soldier. Anything more of that then is not my business.
I'm sure. Keep his hands attached to him. I guarantee you those pearls are priceless. He walked. Go ahead.
I was going to say, how do we leave this realm?
Valdemir will be here within an hour. He will know. The breath of the Krogan has brought you here for a reason. What that may be, I am unaware of, but it definitely changes our outcome. And he looks to Korg.
Indeed. If the Krogan has brought you here for something along the lines of this rebuilder, then definitely it changes everything. But I don't think we should make any assumptions until Valdemir arrives.
Very well.
We may need to bring the other council members here as well, once we have full information.
He nods. Gentlemen, you have an hour, but you may not leave this room. And he twists his hand and the door behind you locks. And Florence steps over to have counsel with Korg.
All right.
They have walked away from the table with the maps and everything. They have left everything open to whatever you want to look at. They have stepped over by the rebuilder.
How about I go pee real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Baruch will be, he'll start the big map that's of the world.
Mm-hmm.
He'll roll it up and start looking at, and roll it into one hand, and he'll start looking at the stuff that's on the rest of the stuff that's on the table.
Okay, so you're moving that map aside.
Yep.
Okay,
I'm looking at the rest of the papers and stuff that's on the table.
Joe, what would Korg have on that table?
Mostly troop placements where Recon has said the borders, border disputes, things like that. There would be information as far as like what resources cities need as far as food, lots of military data would be.
That's perfect. That's what I'm looking for. I'm going to start to try to piece together what is happening in this world. Why are they wanting this rebuilder active?
So,
and I do have a background, a military background as a mercenary. So,
well, there's definitely defense happening here, like a securing of borders, but it's not so much like the humans are securing theirs, the Minotaur or the dwarves and the elves are securing theirs. It's like a continent-wide perimeter. That's what they're doing with spots in between of soldiers and things like that. Mixed races and all of that stuff too. It's like they're preparing for an invasion.
but they're securing the borders, but they're securing like the outside borders of the country.
The coastal borders, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they're doing. But there's placements like the strategy in this is incredibly sound, and you can tell that it's taken more than just Korg to do this on his own. This has and that goes into what he was saying about the council. This had to have taken several people to coordinate and figure out, and just by looking at that you can tell that the elves and the dwarves and the humans are working together.
I'll signal to Lawrence to come over whenever he gets back from the bathroom.
Well, we'll move on for a moment. Rohan, what are you doing through all of this?
Rohan would be dwelling on all this information he's gotten, and Rohan is beginning to form a theory.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Rohan doesn't want to be judged guilty by the breath of the Krogan. He's going to go over to Ace's character is Voldasaris.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go over to him.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk to him about his pearls.
All right. So let's go ahead and get that interaction going right now. Voldasaris, Rohan is making his way directly to you.
Okay.
Rohan will, let's see here. Rohan will say, if the breath of the Krogan has brought us here to help these people with this rebuilder, would you be willing to part with perhaps one of those? It may mean the means of us getting out of here.
Voldasaris is kind of still, rubbing his palm and wrist with his tips of his fingers with a clenched hand, and kind of inside of his own head thinking about the times that have passed over the years, the death of his mother, the memories, and his knowledge of Valdemir, and he kind of shakes it off and looks to Rohan and says, "To part with my beads, to be dishonor my mother. I would have to have great reason, and I don't know if this is it."
I understand. I have not figured out why the Krogan has brought us here. But the only path in front of us is this rebuilder and something they've been looking for. What theories do you have?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
Say that again.
What theories do you have as to why the Krogan has brought us here?
I began thinking of these things as we approached this place, but with the names that I've recognized and the people that I know that still exist in our world, and the things that I know that I just can't speak of. I've been so distracted
The
that
voice
I
that
don't
they
have
say you
theories.
hear.
Everyone has voices.
Nope. And Joe was like, "Fuck that, I'm out."
He said, "I'm done."
Yeah,
Nope, I'm not.
Sorry, just
I'm
as
not
I was
listening
about
anymore.
to say something, it dipped out on me. Okay, so
You hear
Rohan will
voices?
say-
You're fuck that, man.
No,
Rohan will
I said
say,
everyone hears voices. Come on.
My
Okay.
Rohan will say, the voice they say you hear, has it been silent since we arrived?
It has been silent.
Mm.
Under my control.
The breath of the Krogan does strange things to people. Or so my stories my father would tell me.
All right, and we'll leave it with you two for a moment. We'll go to Koch and Edelbrim. All right, so Koch, Edelbrim, through all of this, Voldasaris and Rohan are carrying on a conversation. Lawrence and Baruch are in the middle of something, and you two, once again, are left to your own devices.
Are there any more griffins?
You don't see any. You didn't see any before.
I wanted to see the griffins.
How about we just take a look around? Maybe there's griffins
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, let's go.
There you
Let's
go.
go take a look.
Okay.
Just start asking random people. Have you guys seen those griffins?
Well, we're locked in the room, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh,
All
yeah,
right.
we're by ourselves.
So you're gonna look around. Let's see here. It's well lit. There are many tables. The one that Lawrence and Baruch are at has all kinds of maps and paperwork. There's those 3 mirrors that you can see. A lot of the floor is bare, but except for in the back where Florin and Korg are, and there's that rebuilder and then other pieces of equipment, artifacts, things of that nature.
Not much going on in here, is there?
Not really.
Kind of boring.
Can I go
Is there
mess
like
with the
books and-
rebuilder?
Is there like books and tomes and scrolls all lying all over the place? I mean,
There is a table that has some of that stuff, yes. Well, I don't think you could go over there and mess with it, though. Florin and Korg are over there, and they would put a stop to that very
well, it
quickly.
did say do what you want. You know,
Well,
kind
that's
of
true.
open-ended.
Then
That
how are we
Station.
locked in here?
Magical lock. Florin locked the door.
Are there ferret holes?
No. No, this place is sealed up pretty tight.
Can I mess with this mirror?
Yeah, there's 3 of them.
I'm gonna go mess with one.
Okay. So you come up to the first one. It shows a perfect reflection of you walking up to it. You can see everything in the room from that perspective, just reversed mirror image. It doesn't do anything more than that. The second one is broken, and it's gray and black. Has no reflection coming through, and the part that holds it is tattered and almost looks burnt. And then the third, the holder is similar to the first, but a little more dull, and the image is cloudy.
I'm gonna touch it.
Which one?
The third one.
Okay. When you do, the waviness, the smokiness in the mirror kind of dissipates and shows you the forest that you came from.
You mean swamp?
The swamp. Yeah, it is exactly that. Everything that you remember, everything that you know, it looks exactly like it, right down to the broken branches, the dirty water, the blades of grass, all of it.
I'm
And there's-
immediately gonna feel homesick and
And
sad.
there is one moon in the sky.
I'm gonna look at that, and I'm gonna look back up at Koch and say, wasn't there 3 moons outside?
Is there like a marker? I can make 3 moons.
You're not even going to talk to him?
Yeah, we communicate through other means. It's
Fair
okay.
enough.
Is there a window?
There are 4 windows here, but they are all sealed.
Can I is there like a not? Can I not see out of them, or
Yeah, you can see out of them. Absolutely. If you look in one direction, you can see 3 moons out there.
I'll go get Florin. I'm gonna pet him.
Okay. Koch is walking over to Florin. Edelbrim, he has left you alone.
Yeah,
I have an idea.
Are you going to go back to the image in the mirror?
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
still gonna stand there.
Koch, you're walking away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Edelbrim, we'll stick with you for a moment. When you do that, when you look back to the mirror, one of the trees in the background you can see start to move and shake. And it gets up and it turns and it looks directly at you. And you know who that is.
For some reason, do I get the sensation that I could almost reach out and touch the swamp?
Yeah, you could. At least that's your thought process at the moment.
I'll screw it. I'll reach out and try and
When you
touch
do
the
that,
mirror again.
when you do that and touch the glass on the mirror, it's just glass.
Oh, I'm heartbroken now.
But the ent is starting to make its way toward you. And we'll go to Koch. All right, you're making your way over there. But before we get there, Joe, Florin and Korg's conversation real quick.
Okay.
All right. So, gentlemen, what you're about to hear is out of character, but pertinent to the story. All right, so play like you don't know what the hell me and Joe are saying to each other. Okay? I know you guys can. As Florin and Korg step away, they step over to the rebuilder, the rusted, dented, dilapidated machine. And when you and Florin get over there, Joe, he looks to you and he says, "We need those. You know that. He cannot leave here with those. We need them. If we stand any chance of surviving this."
I agree. And I also believe the Krogan has brought him here just so we can have this weapon of defense that we desperately do need. The trick is going to be getting them from him.
I can kill him now.
Well, let's not go that far.
Did you forget why we were put here?
I remember.
Has that slipped your mind, King?
No. I'm not that old yet. No. It's not slipped my mind.
In
But
the
I'm
other
looking
world, you're dead.
That's in that world, not this one. In this one, I'm alive and well. I think there will be a way to talk him into letting us use them. And if push comes to shove, and Valdemir is here, and maybe a move like that will have to be made. But I would rather resort to diplomatic means first.
With a snap of my finger, they can drop now. We can take everything they have, and we would survive.
And we would be no better than those we fight against.
Do you think I care about that?
I have a kingdom to think about, and the people in that kingdom. If I resort to tactics where it's just dropping them down, I become no better than a tyrant. And I am not a tyrant. If this Korg in their world is a tyrant, then he deserved to die.
I highly doubt that, and so do you.
I will not resort to tyrannical means. I will do whatever is necessary to save my kingdom. That I will do.
You realize it's more than just Browning, right?
True.
You understand this.
That's why we have others on the council, so that way we don't leave the power into one person's hands. Because as I said earlier, years ago when we put this council together, we're all in this together. So as much as getting these items will be helpful, we do need to act in accordance with the rest of the council.
You can tell Florin is getting very frustrated, and he's like, just them being here is like a beacon. Do you understand that?
Yes, I understand it very clearly. Very clearly I do. But I do not want to resort to tyrannical means to get this rebuilder working. Do we even know what will happen if we put those beads into? This thing could turn on and destroy all of us. What we need is them to buy in to what we're doing. And if we can do that, they will willingly, I guarantee, willingly sacrifice themselves for the greater good. They seem like that kind of people.
I don't think so. I think the big giant orc will have more to say with steel than he will with words.
And then he'll be right next to Valdemir when he does.
The dark elf, just cut his hand off now. Take the beads. The big brute and the tiny dwarf, I don't think they'll do much. The two humans, you could take care of them. Korg, you know we need these.
Yes.
These are important.
I know we do, but we are not going to resort to those kinds of tactics. If the council comes and sees this, we'll be in worse shape than we are now. We need the council to stay together.
I very much disagree with this train of thought.
You don't think we need the council to fight this battle?
I didn't say that. I disagree with your train of thought.
Well, it will not be the first time, and I'm sure it will not be the last.
Well, let's
trust me on this. I believe we can recruit them to help us, and then he'll gladly put his hand in there or give us the beads, pearls, so then that way we can activate this and get it working. But before I go and sacrifice people, I'd like to know if they're willing to do it or not.
Very well. We'll let you handle it your way for now. But I tell you, if there's a moment of advantage, I'm going to take it. And Koch, that is when you come up.
I'm gonna pet him.
He looks to you and he says, "Is this some kind of greeting where you're from?"
Potentially, but I need to show you something. And he's not really gonna take no for an answer. He's gonna put his hand in the small of his back and start pushing him towards the window.
Okay. He goes, "What? What?"
All right, you see, notice the moon.
I do. The
Right?
three.
The three of them. Okay.
Mhm.
Now I'm going to show you something over here, and then we're going to completely about face and go back to the mirror.
Okay. He goes along. Yes, the mirrors. Yes, I understand.
Do you see something missing?
When you go over there, Edelbrim, your hand is still on there. And if you were to turn to see Florin, like his eyes would go wide. Like, what are you doing touching that?
I'm gonna point and say, that's my master.
He looks and he says, what am I looking for? And he looks back to you, Koch. I don't understand.
I'm going to point to the singular moon.
And he looks and stares. And then he turns back and he looks out his window. Interesting. Curious. He looks down to Edelbrim and he says, "Little dwarf, is this your home?"
It is, and I miss it. I wish to show Koch one day.
Show me
person.
on the map. And he takes you away from the mirror. It goes back cloudy again over to where Lawrence and Baruch are, and he points to the world map. Show me. Where are you from?
World map's currently rolled up in my hand.
Oh, Florin takes it out of your hand and rolls it out.
Tim, out of character, would Edelbrim know map reading skills, like enough to know where the swamp fire is? Honestly, I don't think he would.
Then play like you don't.
Or
Fair
just
enough.
have him point to somewhere random, like it's just water.
Right there.
I'll study the map and I'll try to locate Browning first.
Can he read?
I would assume Ember Soul would have taught him to read and write.
Okay, then you can see where it says Browning. You can see where it says Hammerfell. You can see the hills and the mountains.
I would try to locate Browning and then kind of like back trace kind of roughly where I would think it would be, and then just kind of like point randomly.
Okay, and Florin just kind of looks at that and looks at you, and he just kind of gives a curt nod.
Yeah, I don't know where I pointed, but yeah.
Yeah, it's somewhere random.
I said here, maybe.
Very well. Back to Lawrence and Baruch for a moment. Florin walks away.
I want to go look at the armor clad. Can I do that?
The rebuilder?
Yeah,
Come on, get your mechanical constructs
sorry.
right.
I'm tired.
No, that's okay. Yeah, you guys can go over there. Florin has stepped away. Korg has stepped off somewhere else.
If I see Lawrence heading to the rebuilder, I'm going to walk over to him.
Okay.
I'll side up to Lawrence and I'll say, something is very wrong here. The papers, the military papers that are on that table, they're fortifying the borders all of the borders, not just Brownings. They're fortifying the entire coastline. And I'll look at him and I'll say, this is a massive undertaking.
Am I at the rebuilder right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd have
Okay, yeah.
slid up next to you, and I'll be like standing next to you, looking at the rebuilder, whispering this to you.
I kind of almost like I'm ignoring Baruch. I'm looking over the rebuilder. Could I make like I don't know a
Well, like a history check.
I'm trying to see like if I can understand that. Can I make like an investigation check to see if I can understand like is this just a suit of armor until this core?
No,
is
yeah,
in
go
there?
ahead. Go ahead. 13.
Okay.
It is not a suit of armor. It is, for lack of a better word, a golem of some kind.
Hmm.
It is fully automated.
Interesting. Okay, so there needs to be like connectors, wires, like
Well, not necessarily wires. Like you can't see inside it, but like maybe some of the dents have broken through the armor. Like it's armor plated, but like Mason said, it has those mismatched patches and things like that. If you peer in, you could maybe see really thin tubes. Like it is so intricate that no human, dwarf, or elf could have built this.
okay.
Like the tubes run like veins almost. There is a spot in the center that is empty, however.
Okay. I'm just like looking up and down, and I'm trying to like pay attention to Brooke as much as possible, but like I can't help just be like, this is so advanced. It's beyond anything we're capable of.
I'll look from Lawrence and notice that he's like enraptured with this thing, and I'll say, they call this the Rebuilder. Is that the same as the stories of the World Engine?
Well, at the very least, it shares a name. I can't tell you that it's the same. Fortunately, I don't know. I mean, this one might function on a whole entirely different level than ours does.
We don't even know if those beads will even power this thing.
Right, we don't.
Or if they do, what it will do to this world. The time of the World Engine is lost. Do you know what happened during that time? None of the elders that I do can tell me exactly what happened.
I don't think anyone can.
I think anyone that did or possibly could know is either dead or myth and legend.
Up above the roof, you can hear Edelbrim, and you recognize the sound caught you due to the caw of a griffin. And Florin pokes his head up, looks to Korg, and he says he is here.
Go and meet him.
He nods and leaves.
Oh no, I want to follow him. There's Griffins.
Okay, you're small enough. I think you can sneak through. Okay.
Baruch's going to look to Lawrence, and he's going to say, I'm not sure I trust the group we're in. And I'm going to indicate towards as where Florin is. I'm going to say he seems a little desperate.
Most
And
assuredly.
And desperation does not usually end well.
So I believe that we are currently being sized up. Whether that means sized up for our ability to help them or our ability to stand in their way, I am not too certain, but it does not bode well for our current ambitions.
I'll look at him and I'll say, I know the stories of Valdemir from our world. If even if this one isn't such a monster, he would be a force to reckon with.
So is it just us in the room?
Korg is in the room with you, but he's off in a different section.
Hmm.
Like if you're speaking in low tones like you are now, he couldn't hear what you're saying. But he knows you guys are communicating.
I'm trying to. Okay. If we're going to convince them that we're worth keeping around, now is the time to do it.
I'll follow your lead. If you give the word to fight, I'll fight.
I will approach Korg.
All right, we'll stop there for just a moment. Edelbrim, Florin is walking up this set of stairs, and you are going along with him. Roll your stealth, please, unless you're not being stealthy at all.
I wasn't planning on being stealthy. I'm not stealthy at all.
Fair
I
enough.
just want to see the damn griffins.
Fair enough. As he gets halfway up the stairs, he turns and looks, and he goes, "You."
I'll wave. Hi.
Very well. And he continues.
I'm following right behind him.
Okay.
As happy as could be. I'm going to see a griffin.
He pushes this door that's on the floor open and comes up to the top of the tower. And he extends a hand down to help you up.
Nah, I got it. I'm perfectly able.
Very well. And he stands there and he waits. And you can see up above this griffin circling as it makes its way down and lands. Atop this griffin is a human dressed in green dragon scale armor, has the crest of a 3 wolf's heads. One in the center is screaming directly at you. The other 2 are pointed to either side, doing the exact same thing. A purple cloak, cape flows off of him that's clasped here on either side. He has a sword nearly as long as he is, and he dismounts the griffin as it shudders and shakes, thins its feathers out, and stretches and relaxes. He looks to Florin and he says, "She's hungry. She needs to eat." And Florin says, yes, we will take care of that. You are needed downstairs." And Valdemir nods and he looks and he sees you and he goes, "And who might you be?"
I'll stand up as tall as I can.
And he does the same.
Well, you tower over me, but anyway.
Well, yeah, but you're standing straight. Valdemir does too.
And I'll address him and I'll say, "My name is Edelbrim Swampfire, and you?"
Valdemir Ellsworth, general of the armies of Browning. And he looks to Florin and he says, "We have guests?" And Florin nods. And Valdemir comes down to your level, goes to one knee, and he says, "Master Edelbrim, if I may implore you to take me to you and your friends."
I'll just do a quick glance towards the griffin. I really just wanted to get a good look, and I'll say, "Oh, well, all right." And as I turn to go, Tim, real quick out of character, would Edelbrim remember that Regal is in charge? Because
Yeah,
we met him in the
yes,
tavern.
yeah, you'd know.
As we're walking back down into the
Mhm.
door, I'll pipe up and say, "Master Valdemir, I thought Regal was in charge of the armies of Browning."
No, he definitely is not, though he is a trusted soldier and fights alongside me. He's back at camp now.
That's odd. The last we saw him was in Browning before we set off.
That's interesting. Why don't you tell me where you're from?
I hail from the swamp fire, the swamp fire.
Hmm. Down in the southern reaches of Avarice on the borders of Hammerfell, am I correct?
That is correct.
I know
I
the place very well.
Would you know my master?
You seem like someone that doesn't require a master. You seem very in charge of what's going on with yourself.
This trip has been soul searching and eye opening, and that is for sure.
Do you enjoy drink, Master Dwarf?
No, the last time I had some was with a couple of very very adventurous minotaurs, and it was quite strong.
Interesting. Florin, have you not shown hospitality to our guests? Florin gives kind of a grumble, and Valdemir looks back to you and he says, Edelbrim, I apologize. If you may take me down into the main chambers, I will make sure that food and drink is provided for you and your friends.
Sounds wonderful to me.
Very well.
Thank
Lead
you.
the way.
I'll walk back down the stairs and towards the door.
Okay. You go back through the door, back into the chamber. Cord, you can see Valdemir coming through, being led by Edelbrim with Florin right behind. As soon as he sees you, he goes down to one knee and he says, my lord.
Hey, sorry, I'm back.
Oh, okay.
Korg will approach and say, Valdemir, what news do you bring?
He stands and he says, my lord, the southern coastline has been secured. We sit and wait for your orders.
Very well, very well. Thank you for coming when the
Absolutely.
Griffin sent.
What brings me here in such a hurry?
Well, we may have an opportunity to win against our adversary, but it's going to require some negotiation, I believe.
Okay. And he looks and he says, and our guests?
Our guests aren't from around here.
They're
They're from another place. You know of Florin's mirrors. I assume you remember them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They would be from, and he's going to tap on the wall next to the third mirror. He's going to tap on that and say, from there.
He stands a little straighter. Voldasaris, at this time, you can see Valdemir. He looks exactly like who you know, but there is no pale skin. His skin is very full of life. He's not youthful. He's about a little older than Korg is, but you can definitely see the structure here. Korg is in charge. Valdemir is a subservient. And you can see the loyalty, too. This is a very, very different Valdemir than what you are used to. And Ace, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
Oh no, I wasn't talking.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. So Voldasaris is far. Is he a good distance away from him? Is he across the room?
Yeah, the other side of the room.
Okay, so he's just aware of his presence right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Valdemir looks to Corgan. He says, well, I have met our tiny friend, Edelbrim Swampfire here. If I may introduce myself to the others.
Of course.
Very well. And he walks over to Koch and he goes, you, sir, who might you be?
I'll motion to his chest and go Koch.
Valdemir. And he looks to Baruch. And you, Orc?
He'll straighten up and say, I am Baruch. I'm Baruch Drogan. I'm
You
a
look-
storm. I'm of the Stormrunner clan.
I don't believe I have heard of those.
And he'll look down to the map, glance down at the map on the table again, and he'll say, I would reckon you haven't."
He looks to Rohan and you, barbarian.
Rohan, of the Southern Force, follower of Fenrius.
Fenrius. The warrior wolf who serves Drago. Am I correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Some things are the same. And he looks to you, Voldasaris, and he goes, "And you, Dark One."
Valdemir doesn't see Dark One yet. Voldasaris is still in disguise because his
got it.
party doesn't know,
Okay.
right? Okay.
So he says, "And you, sir, who might you be?"
So Voldasaris looks up to Valdemir in amazement, astonishment, and a little bit of disdain.
He takes notice of all this.
And then Voldasaris has a slight shudder, and you see almost a loss of breath, and the eyes roll back in his head very briefly, and snaps right to, and looks at Valdemir in his face and says, "The name is Voldasaris." And he looks at Valdemir and he says, "You, sir, remember this one. This one means great things for your future."
Well,
And then Voldasaris, the people around him, his party, notices the slight cockiness, the slight change in his tone that's not usual that Voldasaris would have. It's almost like a different person.
Mm-hmm.
And Voldasaris removes the mask of many faces, and long, white, glowing hair falls. A dark purple, grayish skin appears, and this would be the party's first knowing of true identity. And he shows Valdemir who this one really is. And then, kind of like another brief instance, Voldasaris kind of comes to realizing what has just happened, and kind of looks at Valdemir again with kind of surprising of what has gone on, and kind of a shudder feeling of a little bit of terror and a little bit of enragement of power,
Mm-hmm.
and just says, kind of bows his head to Valdemir and says, "My lord."
He looks to you and he says, "You do not need to bow to me. You owe no allegiance to the Ellsworths. Rise."
Voldasaris rises and kind of tries to gather himself and looking to his party, knowing that they are now seeing who he really is.
He turns to you, Lawrence, and he goes, "And I assume you are the one in command?"
Sometimes.
What about this time?
See how this goes. It seems to me like you all are quite interested in getting that rebuilder up and running, and judging from your military diagrams, I'll gesture towards the back table,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like you all are struggling with certain issues that a fully functional rebuilder could take care of.
You know strategy and tactics?
I dabble.
Tell me, what do you see?
So correct. So stop me if I say anything that Garrett.
Yeah.
So they're currently protecting their like coastline, right?
The entire continent.
So like we just okay. Was there any indication that like the dwarves and elves are like subservient to
Nope. It
Averis?
is
Okay.
a joint venture.
Well, it seems like you all have launched a all-out defense of every coast on this continent. I assume you're allied with both the dwarves and the elves in this effort. Which, if I can wager a guess, some sort of foreign power is planning on invading. And based off of the limited knowledge from my world, I would stagger Drogogoria, perhaps, though I cannot be certain
I'm
of
not
that.
quite sure what that is.
Okay, well, we can't get everything right. Then perhaps it is some foreign nation that I am unfamiliar with.
In that part, you are correct. What is your name, sir?
Lawrence Strabo,
Strabo. And where do you hail from, Master Strabo?
Avaris,
Is that so? What part?
Western Avaris.
Grendel controls the western portion of Avaris.
He used to in my world as well.
Used to.
He's been dead for quite some time.
I see. How did you get here?
Why don't you answer my question first, and then we can start backpedaling.
We are defending against a force that hopefully will never arrive. Does that sate your curiosity enough to answer mine?
No.
Baruch will look up and say, "Who are you fighting?"
Where are you from?
Baruch will he'll walk over to the table and he'll tap a section that I'm assuming is just blank on the map on their map, and he'll say, "I'm from the Storm Plains. That is where my tribe hails from."
He points in that area where you're pointing. He says that area is controlled by the elves.
Where I'm from, the elves wouldn't make it that far in, and he'll place his palm over a good sized section of that area, and he'll say, "These, in where I come from, these are orc lands," and he'll spread his fingers all the way up to where Keraton Kaioplan would be, and he'll say, "We have conquered from our lands through our longtime enemies, and we have conquered their stronghold." And he'll tap in the area of where Keraton Kaioplan was.
And he says, "What was there?"
The Minotaur city.
The Minotaur don't have a city.
Not here.
No.
At that point, he'll reach into his bag and he'll pull out his map, and he'll throw it across the table as it unrolls. And this thing is tattered, scorched in some sections. There's splatters of, you could assume, with blood.
Valdemir motions for Korg.
And he'll say, "Here."
Korg will step forward.
And he'll look at this with Korg and be like, "What do you see?"
I see things that aren't here. It's all wrong.
I agree. And he looks to you all and he goes, "None of you should be here."
He'll roll his map back up and he'll say, "And yet we were brought."
I wonder why. He looks back to Lawrence and he goes, do you know anything of the armor clad?
Quite a bit.
Is that so?
Baruch will sneer and almost like he's got a sour taste in his mouth when you say that word.
The armor clad?
Hmm.
Okay. What do you know?
I know that they were created by Artefactus to overthrow the others from his pantheon. And I know that he failed in my world twice, and presumably in your world at least once. Though, from these questions, I assume the dawn is about to break on that instance.
If we have anything to say about it, it won't.
So you want the rebuilder to stop this?
I'll answer your question if you answer one for me. Do you know who Mako is?
Can I roll a history check?
No, because you have no idea who it is.
I'm like, doesn't ring a bell.
Very well.
For once, it seems like you have something that I don't know.
Now, what was your question?
It's more just of a clarification. You plan on using the rebuilder to stop the armor clad, in a similar vein to what we did in our own world, at least if legend is to be believed.
In a sense, yes.
In a sense?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is that sense?
Let me give you some history. And he walks over to the mirrors again. I assume you know what these are?
Yes. Florin took every ounce of his being to explain them to us.
Very well. Then you know that this one, and he points to the first, represents where we are now.
Yes.
And he points to the third and he says, that one has to be where you're from. Am I right?
That's the smoky one, not the cracked one. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
If Florin is to be believed, then yes.
Touch the mirror for me if you don't mind.
I'll place a hand on it.
Okay. The smokiness goes away and it shows the inside of the castle at Browning. Aglonia, Regal, and Utar are seated there having dinner. You can't hear anything, but they're talking. Valdemir gives a slight shift in composure when he sees Regal. It's a very different Regal than what he sees or than what he knows. And he gently takes your hand away. Now touch the second, if you don't mind.
I'll do that.
It's very cold.
The broken one?
Yeah, the broken one. And
Does anything change on the image?
nothing happens. He says, now, if the third activates when you touch it, or any member of your party touches it, then why doesn't the second?
Baruch will reach over and he'll place his hand on the first mirror.
Nothing happens.
On the smoky one?
That's the third. When you do
sorry.
that, it goes to the storm plains. It's dark. It's quiet. You see star fields and a single moon.
He'll take a breath when he sees that, and he'll pull it, and he'll slowly pull his hand away.
The second one was another Darmus. That Darmus was destroyed by Mako.
Baruch will reach over and he'll touch the broken one.
Nothing happens. I want you to watch something. And he steps over and places a hand upon the mirror. The cracks reform, but they're still there. They're not as prominent as before. You can see smoke kind of billow through the glass as it goes to the last moments of this world. A castle not too similar from the one in Browning is being overrun. by millions upon millions of armor clad. A single figure is in the center of those, commanding them as they breach the walls and start to decimate, destroy, and kill anything living in front of them. It shifts to a chamber where another version of Florin is attempting to activate the mirror that they have. And Valdemir and Korg are standing there barking orders at the soldiers that remain inside the chamber. As the doors burst open, armor clad go through. You see Korg run and is cut down within a few moments. He takes several with him before he goes, but he is overrun and killed. And this person that is leading them, Joe, what does Mako look like?
Mako is pretty much he has it's think of it like RoboCop. It just has that human face that is for communicating with the people, but he's got, instead of being bald, he's got hair on his head, but he looks like a regular person would.
Okay. And as he comes in, you see him and Valdemir exchange dialogue, but you can't hear what they're saying before Valdemir rushes in to fight. As they're fighting, Florin is yelling back to Valdemir. Valdemir's getting pushed back before Florin uses some form of magical energy to pull Valdemir toward him and through the mirror. And then the last images of the mirror are of the armor clad coming and overrunning Florin before it goes black and cracks again.
So Baruch's going to look at Valdemir, and then as he's got his hand on the mirror, he says, "You're from there."
No, I'm from here.
Then where is that Valdemir?
That's a good question.
So you didn't.
How are you able to activate this mirror?
I'll show you. And he reaches over to the third mirror, and that swirls and turns to where you can see your Valdemir atop Stonewall with Ian's Bard seated behind them, and they're flying in the dead of night, crossing over the southern coastal area of Avaris, heading north toward Browning. He takes his hand off. For some reason or another, these things are connected to me and my versions. I don't know where this second Valdemir has gone to, but the one in your world is corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
We already knew that.
But that brings me to why you're here.
Off to the side, Voldasaris is kind of in his own head again, and he just says, "How did you do that?"
Do what?
How did you just talk to that man without my say-so?
And he looks to you and he says, "Excuse me?"
Voldasaris is looking around, realizing he's talking aloud rather than talking in his head, and says, "Excuse me, I apologize," and kind of steps away. And he says, "Tell me how you did that."
Valdemir stands a little straighter, puts his hand on the hilt of his sword, and he says, "I don't think that I will."
At this point, Aldaceres is realizing that he's not really in control of what's going on, and he walks away in to try to get some privacy, and he's speaking to the voice in his head.
He
How
turns
did you do that?
he turns back to Lawrence and he says, "The Krogan is very real, as I'm sure you all have figured out by now. What it is on your world versus what it is here on mine is something else entirely. I don't know why it's brought you here, but maybe it was to show you these things, to prepare you. However, your presence here does not go unnoticed. If we were able to find you or notice that you arrived, then Mako surely knows."
We did kind of be dropped on your doorstep, so to speak.
Valdemir looks to Korg and he says, "Can I tell them everything?"
I think in order to... Yes, let's tell them everything.
Very well.
It's important.
Gentlemen, oh, go ahead, Joe.
It's important that they know what's going on.
Gentlemen, you're on a version of Darmus. You're on the version of Darmus, should I say. All other Darmuses, the other two, and he points to the mirrors, are copies of this one. This is the original. This is the first.
How do you know that?
Because I know. Because Relic has told me. In the beginning, Koroks, the father of the gods, created Darmus, that which we all know, that which we all love, that which we all walk those hallowed grounds. However, he made this one first. He created the Krogan before he created the gods as a protector of Darmus, should anything ever come to pass that needed something of that nature, that enormous ferociousness. Once this Darmus was created, another was made. A little more outlawish, a little less, shall I say, filled with rules. That was known as the Darmus of the Dragon Hunters. The second one that you saw. And then a third was created. And I believe the words that Korok spoke, which he spoke on ours too, was, "You shall not create that which I will create. You shall not create that which I have created." Well, as history goes, as the stories go, as I'm sure it's the same with you, Artefactus took it upon himself to create the Armorclad. Am I right in that?
According to the stories.
He went to the Forge of the Gods and created his own entities, his own things, made out of jealousy and hatred and rage and destruction.
He tainted the One Forge in order to create his abominations.
Exactly. And here, as with there, he launched a massive campaign known as the Armorclad War. He was stopped. This happened centuries ago for us, millennia ago for you. Artefactus is locked away in the Shield of Eternity here. I can only imagine he has been set free on your world. However, during that creation, another being, somebody very powerful named Mako, discovered the power of a god inside a lone Armorclad, one that managed to survive. He took that power, he fed upon that power, and learned where it came from. figured out that there was another place that had armor clad as well. Somehow he made his way over there onto the second Darmus, gained control of the armor clad, used them, used their power, fed upon that power, and destroyed a world. When that happened, Koroks took this Darmus and tucked it away, hid it from the eyes of Mako, and he's been searching for it ever since. He's had a bead on your world for quite a while now, but with you here, now he knows where this one is. And that is not good. So it makes me wonder why the Krogan has chosen to bring you here. And why we need those beads. And he points to Voldasaris.
Baruch will look to glance from Voldasarius and then back to the the world engine.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll say, how do we know? Because those are from our world, that they will even work.
He motions for Voldasaris, come here.
And Voldasaris slowly walks towards.
If you take one of those beads, one of those pearls, and put it in that rebuilder, it will activate. I guarantee
Are you sure
you
of
that.
that?
I know for a fact it will. We've been searching for those beads for years, and you have 7 of them. We only need 1, but the 7 that you have leads me to believe that you have multiple rebuilders upon your world. Am I right in that, or am I wrong? And he looks to Lawrence, Koch, Edelbrim, Rohan, and Baruch.
Baruch will look at him and say, I only know the stories of the one. However, what it did to our world when it was activated, no one knows anymore. There's a section of our history that's missing.
That's very interesting.
It stopped, for all intents and purposes, the second our armor-clad war, but what it did, we don't know.
Then maybe that's something you need to find out. Is there a Florin on your world?
I believe so.
Then you need to find him. Let me confer with my colleagues, with Korg and with Florin. We need to get you home. And we'll go ahead and end it there for the night, gentlemen.
That was a fantastic story.